now?
Yeah, we are live right
Holy
now.
sm-
We've launched right into it. Unfortunately, when I'm not on my computer, I don't have the fancy, like, prep stuff. What's going on, one person that's waiting?
Do you have... Are you connected to the Wi-Fi here?
We are connected, yeah. Because I have a zero signal in
I
here.
doubt you'd get any.
Yeah. I made you watch the advertisement. That's right.
Gonna make me watch the ad on his own live stream. Unbelievable. I'm gonna watch it all the way
That's
through.
right.
So
Monetize. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting
Well,
workout program. Let's
there we
click
go.
on it.
That better be Nick that just showed up. Is there anything inappropriate behind us?
Inappropriate?
No, we're good. Okay.
Not
4
in
people.
Place of office.
Yeah, see, we're launching now. You might as well just hold on to that because it's going to start rolling here in a minute. What's going on, guys? 5 people. Yeah, we're getting an audience tonight because I prepped them. I let them know we were here.
It's the big prep talk.
That's right.
The big prep.
Yeah. So I'm up here with Carson. Obviously, this is Carson. In fact, I can scoot over so you can have a little more camera space. Up here with Carson working on the residential subdivision job. We've been on it for 2.5 weeks. Almost 3 full weeks.
No, 3 full weeks was the end of this week. Right? Or didn't you come in on like a Tuesday or Wednesday? I guess that'd be 2.5 weeks.
I came in on a Monday and was there on Tuesday to work.
That's pretty much 3 full weeks.
Yeah, so 3 full weeks.
This will be the 4th week starting tomorrow.
Yeah. What's up, Matt? Little fuzzy. That might be because my signal here. So Carson lives in a vault with his office here.
It's a big tin can.
Yeah, you get 0 reception. So I'm on his Wi-Fi.
I see, yeah, look at.
Yeah, so
It's super fuzzy.
What
Are
you
you
might-
sure you're on the Wi-Fi?
I should be on Wi-Fi. Let's see here. What you might be able to do is hit those 3 little dots in the corner and you tell the quality, higher picture quality. So if you go to those 3 little dots in the top right of your screen, you can tell it to pick a higher picture quality. It'll take a second to buffer, and then it should give you a nice image quality. But part of it too is probably my upload rate. Is it getting better?
No.
I don't know. It could just be because we're in a tin can. I'm sorry,
You sure
guys.
you're on the Wi-Fi out here?
I'm definitely on the Wi-Fi. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right, Brandon's confirming it's fuzzy. Everyone's complaining about the fuzziness. Come on now. Hang on. I'm going to flip you guys all around and make you all dizzy and everything. Let me verify. Yeah, I'm definitely on Wi-Fi. In fact, let me turn off I'm going to go. AP, what's going on, man? We good? We're good.
Even better?
Yes. I think we're okay. So I'm definitively on Wi-Fi. We're not using anything else. AP, what's going on, man? Brandon says it's clear, so we're good. It's all that
magic I was working in the background.
What, George Montgomery? What's happening? Welcome to the live stream. So now that we're starting to get some people in here and everyone's kind of getting the flow. So we are in Minnesota. We have been here for just under 3 weeks. On Tuesday, I will officially have lived in Minnesota for 3 weeks while helping Carson with his residential subdivision job. Today was a big week. We are officially done with the big land balancing. So we have completely balanced the property. We've got all 3 of our retention ponds dug, which is what we were working on. That was the big goal for this week. And starting Friday, we attempted to lay some pipe on Friday. It did not go so well. We had a bit of a SE day on Friday. But now we are officially on pipe. Starting Monday, we should be, I knew Friday was going to be painfully slow, and it was. Up until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it was just painfully slow because none of these guys have done any sort of pipe work. So it was training Carson's whole crew.
We had
literally
3 guys out there that have never laid pipe before, all under the age of 24.
So I'm literally getting out of the machine, walking everyone through their roles, confirming that they know how to calculate elevations, showing them on the prints where to get that information. It was literally from ground zero starting these guys on how to lay pipe. So we laid pipe until about 1:30, and once we got our rhythm down, we were actually slapping in. We're doing 21-inch storm sewer, and it's RCP. we were getting to where we were laying about a stick per 5 minutes probably. So we actually had some flow and some rhythm. And that's when the inspector showed up. And turns out I knew they used a different kind of gaskets on the pipe out here. In Michigan, we use the big old fat rubber gaskets that you use pipe soap on. You butt them all the way up against the back shoulder of the pipe and then jam the pipe home. I put these new gaskets on, which are lubeless. They actually come pre-lubed. It's inside.
Yep.
They're designed to roll as you insert the pipe. I didn't know that. So we put them all on wrong. The inspector showed up about 1:30, 2 o'clock and said, hey, all that pipe's got to come out of the ground. And we had about, 80 feet, 90 feet in the ground. So we pulled all of our pipe out of the ground. And as you guys are probably familiar, that pipe's made to go in the ground, not out of the ground. So pulling them out of the ground, we also have a super anal inspector. He failed 7.
I think it was 6 or 7 pieces of pipe.
So I think it's 6 or 7 pieces of pipe he decided to fail because they had tiny little stress cracks, which if any of you guys know, as you put this pipe together anyway, it gets stress cracks because you're slamming it together. So personally, from doing pipe all these years, totally usable. All those pieces, there were probably 2 or 3 pieces that were actually failed pieces. The rest of them were totally usable pipe.
And they wouldn't even let us, because we asked if we could just put some mortar on the chipped areas and stuff, and they won't let you do that either. So
that was Friday.
An expensive learning curve.
Laid 90 feet of pipe, had to immediately take it back out. So that was a good time.
That was a lot of fun.
So yeah, let's look at your comments there, because I know people are commenting here while I'm updating.
So George Montgomery is asking, is he a regular? Do you know him?
I don't. He's new. And Brandon, no JCB on this job. I got enough shit that's going down and breaking. I don't need another machine that's going to fail and break.
Yeah, exactly. No crap. He goes, wanted to ask if I paid $25 to be on the union list. I just graduated from North Country College, heavy equipment school, Escanaba, Michigan, and I really want to get a job working for Dan's Excavating. I'm doing good, but I've been putting a whole bunch of applications and resumes with my certificates. I'm a CDL driver holder as well. Haven't gotten any calls back.
So what I would do if you're looking to get into Dan's, I would call the office and ask to speak to, I want to say Greg is in charge of hiring there. I can't remember if Greg is still there or not. He left for a little while and he came back. I don't know if he's still there. Ask whoever's in charge of hiring. Let them know that you've got some skills in some machines. Dan's honestly is always looking for good operators. And you don't have to get in the union first. The way I got into Dan's, I actually went and hired in at Dan's, and then while I was on the job, the union rep came out and signed me up, gave me a temporary journeyman's card. It was good for 30 days. He came out and did that in another 30 days. And by that time, it was very clear I knew what I was doing, and so he just gave me my journeyman's card, and I paid whatever the initial...
If you work for a union company, do you have to be in the union?
Yes.
So if a company hires union operators, you have to be union to even operate there.
So it's basically, it's a prevailing wage job, so it's a union job. The state requires that you have a union, and so to be on that job, you have to be in the union. So they'll kind of get you out there temporarily, and then the BA comes out and he signs you up.
Really?
Yep. And so and I can't remember what the sign up fee. The sign up fee is like $500 or something. They take it out of your paycheck. You don't ever even see it. So that's, if you really want to get into Dan's, that's the way to do it. Is call Greg, tell him what you know, tell him you're available and ready to work, and then show up on the job and start working in the BA. You'll get in contact with the BA. You can talk to some of the guys. I think our BA, what was his name? Oh God, what is his name? I just lost it, and I can't look it up on my phone because we're streaming off of my phone. Anyway,
Dan's a pretty big company over there?
Yeah, Dan's we would swell to right around 500 employees during the summer. So, good sized company.
Jeez, I've got a hard time managing 18.
That's why you hire a lot of people to take care of that aspect for you.
Wow.
So let's dive back into your comments there.
That's a lot of people.
Yes, a lot of people.
What up, brother?
Who's that from?
Dignation 21.
Nick. Thanks for showing up instead of watching hockey, freaking jerk.
Shouldn't even be a question.
It shouldn't even be a question. This is way more fun. Which, by the way, the reason we are drinking, because I always drink during these, but we're celebrating 10,000. If any of you guys don't know, I have been on the job all week. Carson's been working the shit out of me. So we hit 10,000 while I was out on the job, and I made that little quick live the other day because that was, and I know it was a terrible time for anyone to tune in. It's literally the only time I've had to stop and take pause and acknowledge that we hit 10,000 subscribers. So tonight we're celebrating 10,000 subscribers. That's way better than effing hockey, Nick. Okay?
Yeah.
So 10,000 right here.
Big day.
So where are we at?
In Connecticut, we don't have to be union to get rate work. It's a lot of fun because they hate us and sometimes pick at us.
Oh yeah, that's anytime.
Well, that's what I think it is here because there's prevailing wage jobs that we've been on. We just have to pay everybody the prevailing wage.
Yeah.
Which is probably really great for like our guys versus union guys because all that like $50-$60 an hour goes straight in their pocket minus their taxes. They don't have to pay union dues and all that other shit.
Yep. So
that is nice.
It is nice, but yeah, that's you're getting into a debate territory there. Which James, by the way, thanks for joining, brother. I see you comment in here too. We're following comments here because otherwise I'm constantly doing this on my phone and it's irritating. So we're following comments over here.
Nick says, "Hey, calm down. I'm Canadian. Nothing is more important."
I'll give you
more important.
I'll give you that, Nick. It's just in your genes.
Yeah.
So what else have we got here? There's a lot of chit chat back and forth in here.
JCB,
so
a lot of happy Father's Days.
Brandon, what's going on with your soup, man? Most soups can either make or break a job for you, in all honesty. I will say, suck it up and deal with it, because that's just part of this industry. You don't always pick the winning lotto ticket, but it can make your life miserable having a miserable soup to work with. So
yeah, I could see that.
So I had one on my Dan's job. I had a Don Langworthy. So that if you go work for Dan's Montgomery, the name Don Langworthy will come up. He was one of my foremen. He was a superintendent, and we had a McDonald's on our job. Like, it was right up the road, and that's where everybody went for coffee break. And I was a loader man on a pipe crew, and so I would run up there to McDonald's during our 15-minute designated coffee break, and he chewed my ass one day for going for McDonald's. And it's like, dude, the laborers are running up there in their pickup trucks. The only difference is I took the loader. Like, what's the problem? So we got into it over, and it's so all that to say, like, he was that kind of guy. He would bitch over the stupidest stuff. A bad soup can absolutely make your life miserable.
Yeah. Congrats on 10K.
Who's that from?
Down and Dirty. Indignation. Congrats on 10K.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Big day. When was it? It was Thursday? Wednesday? It was earlier in the week, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was earlier. I want to say it was like Tuesday or Wednesday, actually. Yeah. So, yeah. And we're already up to I think we're almost at 200 subscribers over. So, we're clipping along.
It's all uphill from here.
Yes.
Live chat. Let's go back. You guys get a lot of pipe in the ground last week.
So,
not so much.
Yeah, so to recap. Fridays when we started pipe, it was a painfully slow process for the morning because we had multiple issues that came up that we were dealing with. Stuff like not having equipment ready because partially it was the first time any of these guys had done anything. I actually had to learn how to use a pipe laser. No shit, I was on YouTube learning how to use our pipe laser because
it's a nice pipe laser.
It is a nice pipe laser. It really is. Now that I know how to use it, it's slick. But if you don't know how to use it because you've always been a loader man, that takes some time. So it was slow going. We kind of found our stride right around 12:30 or so in the afternoon where everyone knew their jobs because I'm also, like Carson said, I'm working with a crew that has never even been around RCP pipe at all.
Not even on the same. They were on the one site once last year that we did in Minnesota Utilities and Excavating or whatever, MUE came in and did like 3 catch basins and then like connected some it's like corrugated like 12-inch or 16-inch like pipe
double wall.
Yeah. But other than that, like we saw it happen and we saw him get in and get out like that and we were all like, holy crap. Like, that was quick. Like, what? They come in with like 6 guys, a mud mixer, and a truck, dump truck with a 316 on it, and we're like in this little lot. They dig all their stuff out, throw it up, they get the machine up on the hill, put everything in, and then push all the sand back in the hole. And I was like, that was quick.
That's it. It's all about going fast. So, and that's what we're all learning. I'm trying to teach these guys, but it's literally because no one's done anything. I'd get in the hoe and I would dig the spot for the pipe, and then it was get out, and I had to show our top man, okay, Here's how you read a print, because he didn't even know how to read a print. So I'm showing him how to read a print, and this is like this is your
Zach?
That was Zach, yep.
Right. Yep.
And so I had to show him, okay, this is your kind of plan overview of what we're doing. And then you flip over here. Here's the pipe run detail. Here's where you're going to find your slopes and all your elevations and everything. Boom, you flip over here. This is the outlet structure detail that lays out the elevations for our outlet structure. So I was showing him all of that stuff. And then I had to get in the trench with Luke, which is our pipe layer. I had to show him how you actually have to calculate your grade out and put it out on the rod so that we can get our first stick of pipe in. And we know that our first stick of pipe is set to grade. It's exactly where it needs to be, and our alignment is going right to go to our structure. And then once we get that, so I get back in the hoe, we get our pipe set, we fit them together. I have to show them how to put the gaskets on, which I showed them wrong because I did it the Michigan way instead of the Minnesota way, because it's a different style gasket out here. So we finally get all that squared away. We start laying pipe. We get the laser dialed in. I showed the guys how to use that. About 12:30, we find our stride. We lay pipe for about, I don't know, hour and a half. And we got about 80 to 90 feet in the ground. And that's when the inspector showed up and he goes, hey, that gasket's on that pipe the wrong way. Have you been doing them all this way? Yep.
Brian, like an idiot, said yes. And he just said, no,
Actually,
that was just to see if you catch it.
Technically, I didn't even know any of this was happening until they came over and said, all that pipe has to come out of the ground. And I said, why? We had to pull all of our pipe back out of the ground because in Michigan, you have this big fat gasket. It's probably, I don't know, it's probably that thick. And you shove it all the way on the pipe, all the way to the hard shoulder on the pipe.
Which would make sense.
Which makes sense.
Logically.
And then you soap it. You use pipe soap. And then when you jam that pipe home, what happens is the pipe soap, which is lubricant, for those of you who are not familiar, the lubricant lets that gasket slide up over the concrete. And that way it goes all the way in, it hits home, and it's a sealed air, like it's a watertight seal. Up here, they have these things, they're called pre-lube gaskets. And they look like a bicycle inner tube. They get like they're flimsy and they're like that same kind of flimsy rubber feel. And apparently, unbeknownst to me, they have lube inside that inner tube. And you only take it, so if you're not familiar with RCP pipe, you have this kind of hard shoulder where this is your pipe and this is kind of the male end. You have a hard shoulder. And then right out here, you have this little lip that's only, what would you say, maybe a 1/4 inch thick? It's really little.
Not much.
And so what happens with these pre-sealed gaskets, or these pre-lubed gaskets, you only go to that first little shoulder.
Yep.
And the gasket itself is designed, which this is what we always avoid in Michigan. It's not supposed to roll.
And say it's designed to roll
Yeah,
back.
this one is designed to roll back onto the pipe when you fit it. None of us knew that. It was not in our detail anywhere. Like, no one knew that was how you were supposed to do these. So that's when the inspector came out and he's like, yeah, you got to pull all that pipe out. So all of our work, luckily, realistically, the time that was wasted was probably about an hour and a half of the day, because all of the rest of it was training, which I already knew was just going to be a sunk cost. So realistically, we wasted about an hour and a half worth of our time.
Yeah.
But when we pulled the pipe out of the hole, we broke 7 pipe because they're not designed to come apart. They're designed to go together. And so, we didn't technically break 7 pipe. Let me back up there. We technically broke probably about 3 pipe that are worthy of being called broke. The rest of them were failed because we have the world's most anal inspector out there. And he's like down there and he's really like,
this could be a crack.
That's got a little crack there. Do you see it? That crack? Yeah, failed. And he did that for 4
So what do you think about those structures that we set that had the hairline cracks running up them just from drying?
That's where I'm going to point those out to him first thing Monday, because he needs to make the call on that. And then that's why we didn't put that pipe in.
We're going to be getting a lot of new pipe on that entire job, because it's all like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all got hairline cracks in it somewhere. When they made it, it was 100 degrees that whole week. So
and it was a hot mix.
So, yeah,
absolutely. So we got a hot mix because I'm assuming
what is the difference with hot and cold mix? I don't understand that.
So it's not really a hot or cold mix.
Okay,
There's a regular mix, standard mix, which is standard concrete. And then when they do a hot mix, they actually add a chemical additive to it that makes the concrete set up super fast. It cures significantly faster.
So I'd assume that's what makes it.
It puts off a lot more heat, which causes more cracking issues. So these were mixed hot because I'm assuming the plant was just way behind on orders. And so when they mix these up, like they made them and cracked them out of the forms the day they sent them over. Like they made them,
took them out. They pulled them out.
They
of the
pulled them out of
in
the forms and
and
they threw them on a truck, and it was to us. And so we're having lots of like, there are going to be stress cracks from this stuff just curing because it happened so fast. They're so fresh, and that's where this inspector. You know, all of us are familiar in the business that you either get the inspector that's been around, he knows his shit, and he's, you know, he knows, hey, that pipe's totally structurally sound and it's going to seal.
Yep.
Or you get the guy who comes out and he's like, according to the book, that has a stress fracture in it. Now I can't pass that pipe. And unfortunately, that's the guy we got.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because as most of you know,
did Mike look at the older guy? Did he look at any?
I don't know. I was going to talk to Mike on Monday if he comes out and just verify if he's good with that.
But the other guy's just an apprentice or something, or
he was saying that they were partners in this thing, and that's where I got to be careful. Like if they're truly partners, I'm sure Mike isn't going to undermine his partner. Yeah. But I'm going to ask still.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple pipe where I'm going, come on, man. That's a totally usable pipe.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see what happens. But that is a summary of the way Friday went. We worked a 12-hour day, 11.5-hour day. And what we ended up doing is we shaped an apron and threw some fabric and rip wrap down. We put the apron down, and then we set a structure and cut the pipe that's going to mate the apron to the structure. Yep. But because the structure has stress fractures in it, we set the top of it, but we're going to have the inspector take a look at it before we start mudding pipe into it. Because if he wants that to come out and we've mudded our pipe in place, like we're going to be at it with sledgehammers, we're talking hours of work to get that thing back out. Yeah. I don't want to take the gamble, especially with how anal this guy's been. So that's where we are. So let's look at your comments, because I know people are commenting like crazy and we're way behind here.
Okay, just went four-wheeling.
AP, JCB will never be good here.
Yeah, that's never ever. Just went four-wheeling after second 10,000. You guys get a lot of pipe in the ground last week.
So Matt, I haven't had a chance to look at your video. I saw you posted the thumbnail that looked badass of you being way up in the air on those dunes. That looked like fun.
It's good. Yeah, no, still on the JCB. What do I do with my credentials? Or getting out of the school as a Union 324. It's $5,000 school. I don't have any experience, but I'm willing to learn.
So wait, what was that? What would you recommend I do with my credentials and just getting out of the school? I wasn't in Union School 3. It was a 5,000. Okay.
So what school was it? If you said you got $5,000 into it, it wasn't a union school, and you don't have any experience. What did you go to school for?
So I'm assuming at this point you probably went to one of those trade schools, those equipment schools that cost you $5,000, and they give you 20 hours of seat time or whatever. I'm sorry, guys.
It's no AC. It's 71 or 72 in here.
It's getting warm with the sweatshirt. Still, there's no air movement. So,
yeah, George. So comment down below it again. What school did you go to, or what was it about? If you say you don't have experience, but I'm willing to learn, I would assume if you went to school, you had some experience.
So the way those trade schools work is, you go to them. It's a 5-week class or whatever. You get maybe 20 hours worth of seat time in the machines, and then they say, hey, here's your certificate, you passed. Yeah. But the problem is there's no real job site experience. So to answer your question, what I would say is let people know you went to the school, but at the same time, don't go into your interviews expecting them to throw you in a seat of something big because you've been in an excavator before. Because the reality, unfortunately, of those trade schools is you learn how to pull sticks, but you don't understand how to truly operate the machine in real job site conditions. You don't know anything about real job site conditions because you've been operating probably in an empty field. I mean, you know this much in a world that's a mile deep. And so that's where I would say absolutely put it on your resume that you've got experience, you know how to pull some sticks, that's fine. But at the same time, don't expect them to throw you in the seat of a 349.
Yeah, they're going to digging pipe. They're going to start you either in a skid loader or on the ground with a
roller,
shovel or
off-road truck. You're going to be in something like that, and you just got to accept that hey, that's okay, and that's honestly the best seats to learn from because you got a little downtime in those seats, and you can observe what's going on the job site. In all honesty, the roller and the off-road truck are the two best training seats on the job if you put in the effort and realize that and observe. Stay off your
Well,
phone.
and that's a big, like you said, observe. Like the one guy we had out there would sit on his phone,
Yep.
the other guy would always be watching, and the one guy that was always watching, aware of what's going on, you could tell he wanted to learn what was going on, and started to pick up on the efficiency of where to pull that truck because he's watching how that excavator can load this as he moves around. Where's the best spot for him to park so that excavator's not reaching too far. So just sitting and watching that excavator load the truck that you're in, or a bulldozer pushing what you're about to hit with the roller, is going to be a huge benefit to you guys because you're seeing what that operator is doing in real time as they're doing it and why they're doing it.
And you get a feel for the process. Because in all honesty, yeah, you've got some seat time in an excavator, but have you ever been on a road job to understand the process? Have you ever been on a pipe laying crew to understand the process? You know, from the seat of an off-road truck or a roller, you get to see that process and start to understand. That way, when you finally work your way into a seat, you already know what's going on. You're developing the skills to actually do it now, but you're not having to worry about, like, what am I supposed to do here? You already know because you've been observing it.
Yep.
So all that to say, go find a company, go work, go out into the field and get a job, and just know that because you have that certification, whatever they gave you, it doesn't mean they're going to put you in the seat of a big hoe. You're still going to start close to the bottom.
And it's gonna give you a good chance to get your foot in the door before the next guy who has never done anything.
Yep,
so,
exactly.
Nick asked what fleet are you guys running out there. So we have a Komatsu PX.
PX61 or 61 PX.
61
yep.
PX out there.
Which that's leaving this week.
Yeah, it should. I told the guy Thursday that we're done with it since all the land balancing is done. We've got a Cat D6K2 that's got GPS and autos and like everything in it, so that's kind of the cat's meow, except it doesn't push that good.
Yeah, it's a finish machine.
It's a finish machine. It is. And then we've got a Doosan DX. What are they called?
225.
220. It's DX, right?
Yeah, I think it's DX. Yeah.
That one we bought. So everything else was rented. The Doosan we bought this year. And then we've got a roller on site.
Yeah, we got a sheep's foot roller on site.
A K621G?
D. Old girl. So 621D is our loader, which it's old, it's tired, it's a snow machine.
But you were saying that thing
it outpushes the D6. It does. I was out pushing the D6.
So for those of you looking to start a construction business, buy an excavator and a K621D loader, and you don't even need a bulldozer.
You'll outpush the dozer.
You don't even need the dozer.
So that's what we're running. And then we got two old
A300.
Yeah, A3. Basically, it's the old equivalent of the Cat 730 haul trucks. It's a 30-ton haul truck, but it's before Cat switched over their 90s. Yeah, they're old, and we've had a shitload of breakdowns with them.
I think we had one day that there wasn't an issue.
We had 2 days. We had two solid days of hauling with them.
Out of two, probably 2 weeks.
Yeah,
week and a half to 2 weeks.
Yep.
There was 2 days.
It's been a challenge to
either put your money in the equipment or you buy cheap equipment and put your money into repair.
It's
downtime.
And it's been a challenge to keep the job moving with those trucks being up and down.
But we've been making, I think, pretty good progress
considering everything.
And those trucks, like there's like when they're loaded 1 gear, maybe they can get second gear.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're always they're
tired.
They're
old tired girls.
So they run. We've been doing pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
For what we've been working with. Let's see. I just want to stop and say hi. I can't be here tonight because I'm watching the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view.
Oh, there you go. Nice. Thanks for dropping in, Jackson. I know you're probably long gone by now, but thanks for dropping in.
How'd you like that Insta reel I sent you, Brandon?
Of the girls. Which one was that one? Remind me, Brandon. Which one was the girls?
Inspectors are not that fussy here. Yeah, that guy is pretty fussy.
Yeah, the guy that we're dealing with. And
it could be because he's new. Like you're saying, he just...
Yeah. All new inspectors. Yeah, all new inspectors want to go exactly by the book. They're nervous. And I get it. You know, at the end of the day, we all like to bitch about it on our side of the table. But I get it. You're new. You want to do it by the book. You don't want to screw anything up. But it's like us on the stick pulling side. The more experience you get, the more you kind of realize where the true line is of what's good and not good.
Yeah.
And same on the inspector side. You know, eventually he's going to learn, like, that's not really that big of a deal. That's so minimal. It's not a big deal. Infrastructure is going to be sound 20 years from now, even though there's some stress cracks in that.
Yeah.
So it just takes time.
Sean says probably because it's going in the ground before the 28-day crush on the cylinder and going in the ground green, which most inspectors won't let you do either. And that's what I was kind of, I'm assuming talking about the pipe being so fresh.
Yep.
I was surprised that they don't have to have like a month of cure time on that before that gets buried and compacted around it.
I was too.
Which nobody asked like when it was built, so I assume there's not like
the only counter I have to that is because it was poured with the hot mix. A lot of times those hot mixes, like part of the reason they use those is because it has a certain cure PSI that is acquired within a certain number of hours. And a lot of times it's like within 48 hours is, I don't know how, I don't even know realistic numbers, but it's however many PSI. And so that's the only reason I can think they let us get away with it is because this was not normally poured concrete. It was a hot mix. And so I think we've got enough cure that we can actually put it in the ground and they don't have to worry about it because of how quickly it sets up.
Escanaba North Country Heavy Equipment School in Michigan, UP.
Yeah, see, George, I'm not familiar with that school at all. So I honestly, I'd have to do some homework on the school, but I'm assuming it's like most of these heavy equipment schools where you go out there and I hate to say it because you just forked out $5,000 for it, but most of those schools, the education they give you, you can watch my channel. You can go spend $2,000 in equipment rentals, getting a skid and a mini excavator, and you can learn all the skills they teach you off of YouTube.
Brian's 100% right on that, and I can speak to that for sure, because before he came around, what I would do when I was, I don't know, 10, 12, whatever years old, I'd watch the Dirt Ninjas channel all the time.
Yep.
And all we ever had was a skid loader. For the longest time, all we had was a New Holland wheeled skid steer with the old, hand controls and foot controls and everything. And that's what I learned on. And then once in a while, we'd rent like an excavator. I remember one time we rented an excavator. I watched a million Dirt Ninja videos, watching them operate. And then I ran the excavator. I got familiar with the controls enough now where I was proficient in it, but knew what everything was doing. And every time I'd watch a video of somebody operating, I'd sit there imagining what would I do and what is he doing, pulling those sticks to make it as efficient as possible. And surprisingly, that does help a lot. I mean, it's literally like getting seat time without actually being able to be in a seat.
So. But the advantage you get off of YouTube is then you can flip over to more advanced videos and you can start learning the process.
Why you're doing it and what to do.
And in what circumstances would I even use, like laying the bucket flat and dragging it. Okay, that's a good skill to have, but when are you going to use that? Is it every time? Is it sometimes?
Nope.
That's not, you're never going to learn that at one of those trade schools. They don't have the ability to teach that, not only from a time standpoint, but a lot of the times, I would say 80% of the time, the instructors don't even actually have any field experience. It's guys that got hired in because they could figure out how to run the machines, and now they're going to teach other people how to run the machines.
Because they were good at teaching.
Exactly. So that's
what it is.
That's my only thing with those trade schools is, and I think the industry, the trade school industry, if it were totally revamped, I think could be a viable option for getting into the industry. Yep. But in its current iteration, it just doesn't do it. It's teaching you how to run an excavator, and I could show you that in an afternoon.
Have you been around like union guys, or have you gone to a union? What does going to one of those trade schools like he did versus like just joining a union? Are they going to give you actual like training?
Yeah. So the way the union works is you get into an apprenticeship program, and it's classroom time, but it's also you're guaranteed, like there's so many, all these companies that are union companies, they have to take on so many apprentices. And so you go out on a job as an apprentice, and you're going to be in an off-road truck, you're going to be on a roller, you're going to be doing something like that. But they will slowly work you into the seats. But while you're on the job, like we just talked about, you're observing the process the whole time. You're learning what's going on those jobs the whole time. And then you go and do your classroom time. And that's where you get your how to operate an excavator, and they show you the controls. And then you go out back to their back 40 lot. And they pull up where they got 10 excavators sitting out there, and you run the sticks. And you got guys that are saying, okay, I want you to dig a flat trench, and we're going to check grade on you. So you start to learn that process. But then Monday, boom, you're back out on the job, and you're observing what a road crew's doing. You're observing what a pipe crew's doing. So that's where the apprenticeship, and it's a 4-year program.
So that's what the trade schools haven't bridged the gap of like the training on like doing whatever in the classroom and this, and legit actually being skills. On the job site.
Yep. So if I were to start a trade, and believe me, I've thought down this path.
When Brian starts a trade school,
when I start a trade school
with us to do these projects.
So the way I would do a trade school, if I were going to go start one tomorrow, is day number 1, you'd have I'd do small classroom sizes, maybe 10 people. and you got 4 excavators, 5 excavators out there. On day one, we're going to go get in those excavators, and you're going to dig a pipe trench. And it may take you 3 hours. It may take you 40 minutes. It may take you 10 minutes, depending on if you got some previous experience. But you're going to dig a nice flat trench that we can put a piece of pipe in. And we're going to have the other operators down in the hole, and they have to act like a pipe layer. They got to make the bottom of that trench flat. They got to work on their hand signals so that they know what they need to tell you as an operator. And then after lunch, we're going to switch. And we're going to do that. And you're going to get good at running an excavator. You're going to get good at running hand signals. You're going to get good at interpreting hand signals. And you're going to get a process and a flow for how pipe goes down in that hole. And then we're going to add chokers to the mix. You're going to have to go drop that pipe in the hole. We're going to start working on the actual process of laying pipe. Same with dozer. What we're going to do is after we get all that pipe laying done, you got that whole minefield of a field out there. Now tomorrow we're going to jump in the dozer, and I don't care if it takes you 45 minutes or if it takes you 3 hours. You need to have that all flat and level by the time we're done.
Without GPS.
Without GPS, without any automatics, you've got to go out there. And you take your time learning how to make that dozer doze flat and smooth. And if you need to start creeping along at a slow pace, that's how you do it. Because now we're starting to learn the skills of how to actually run a dozer. And then what we're going to do, your other guys, your other operators, you remember how I told you how old school grade checking was? Guess what you're going to do? The other guys that are on the ground are going to
teach them.
They're going to be learning how to run a grade rod because you're going to be the grade checker for the dozer. And now your dozer hand is learning how to doze, and it's going to be gnarly. It's going to be terrible at first. But your dozer operator is learning how to doze, and the guy that's out on the ground is learning how to run a grade rod. And then again, after lunch, we flip. And we're going to do that for probably a week, in all honesty. And that way, by the time you're done with that week, you know how to run a grade rod. And we're going to be translating grades and slopes too. So if I tell you we need to have a 2% slope on that, you're going to know after a week. You don't even have to think about it. You know that every 10 feet, I got to drop 2/10. That's a 2% slope. And you can set that up on your grade rod, and you can spray your marks out for your dozer operator. And your dozer operator may take a half hour to make it, and that's okay because you're learning. That's how a trade school should be run, where you're doing real life scenarios, real life stuff.
2/10 and 10 feet, actually 2%?
Yeah. So think about it. 2/10 in 1 foot.
Wouldn't it be 20%?
No. So 2/10 in 1 foot.
Oh, it would be 20%.
Is 20%.
So
but now we translate it out to 10 feet. See, this is why Carson needs to go to my trade school.
Hey man, if that lunch you're talking about, if that's included, I'm there. Let's go.
But that's, by the time it's all said and done, you haven't just learned how to pull sticks. You've actually learned a lot of the skills that are necessary to working on an actual job site.
And doing it efficiently. That's one of the main things I see, like, as an employer, when people come in and, oh yeah, we can do this, like, I'm a good operator, or I can do whatever, and then you throw them in a skid loader in there to see if they can operate or whatever, and they can function it, and they can move the machine because they were told how to use the controls and click the unlock and, put the auto level for the bucket on, but they can't operate it to its fullest capacity, and that's what I think this sounds like would bridge the gap between, yes, you know how to physically move the piece of equipment and lift up a bucket of dirt, to you can do it efficiently and actually like load a truck or do this or whatever. So.
And that's another aspect that none of these schools teaches. It's one thing, and we've talked about this multiple times in the last week, because the scale of job that we're on right now, which relatively speaking is a smaller scale, but still it's a bigger dirt job.
Oh, I see how it is.
The sub only has 12 houses in it. It's a
14. 14
homes. Woo. So, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a relatively small, large dirt job.
Yep.
But it's still the factors come into play of how I position my truck next to my excavator. And I'm talking about this, by the way, guys. There's a bunch of down and dirties that are coming out of this. There's a bunch of training material in the vlogs that are coming out of this, so stay tuned. It's going to take me a month before I get home and get them edited, but they are coming. And I talk about a lot of this stuff. But if I set up a truck dead nuts next to me, I got to swing, let's say I'm loading from 90 degrees right here, straight out in front of me. I have to swing a full 90 degrees, maybe even a little further before I can dump into that truck for my first load. Versus if I put the cab of the truck even with me, that puts the bed a little further back. So now I'm only swinging, call it 50 degrees to where I can dump. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you start getting in these big hoes that swing slow,
Yeah.
that's a lot of cycle time you're saving. And that's another aspect you're never going to get from a trade school. But if you did a trade school the correct way, where you're actually teaching real on-job skills, you're going to get all of that. And it's going to be drinking from a fire hydrant. But at the same time, if we're running an excavator, loading a haul truck for 3 days straight, you're going to have it ingrained. If we're digging pipe for a week straight, you're going to have it ingrained. If we're checking grade, you're going to know that grade rod inside and out because you've been doing it for a week for your dozer operator. And likewise, when it comes to working your material, when your grade checker puts out his lines, you're going to know how to handle that situation and efficiently move your material around. So, where are we at in the class? I'm sorry, guys. We are chatting.
Sean says, yeah, rent some equipment, tear up the yard, and get the wife good and mad, and then get a job and leave it
That's
there.
right. That's right.
God.
That's right. So I'm teaching you guys.
Get the wife good and mad. That's funny. This guy says we got a D6K brought in and a dresser TD15. I've heard of the old dresser stuff, but I've never actually ran one, or really, I think I've seen one maybe once or twice.
So that's where, I don't know if that's a dozer or if that's an old scraper. That might actually be an old scraper.
G would come out once a day with the D6K and get them coming out in the morning and afternoon in the dresser on site.
Yep.
So I'm curious, what is that dresser TD15?
I bet that's an old school scraper, like old pan. Yeah. Yep. Dirt Boss, what's happening, Dirt Boss? That's Mike up there in upstate New York. I need to come see him at some point. My wife was talking about clam chowder on the East Coast, and I was like, I'm gonna have to schedule a trip to see Dirt Boss up there.
I suppose we can go out there
just for the clam chowder.
Yeah. Curtis Excavation, Washington. How you doing?
What's happening, Curtis? Thanks for joining us.
At the school I went to, a real site, guys. They have all like 20 years of experience. So the school that Nick went to actually does have 20 years experience.
So that's the thing. You've got to be super, super choosy on the schools that you go to, because there are schools that have guys with site experience. But again, the problem is most of these facilities aren't equipped with the stuff to actually teach. Like no facility that I'm aware of has 18-inch RCP sitting around that you can throw on the ground and pop out of the ground over and over and start messing with pipe chains and chokers and structures and all of that stuff, setting elevations for all that stuff. The stuff that I'm teaching Carson's crew, in all honesty, this could be a trade school. I'm teaching them how to lay pipe over the course of a week. Excuse me, that's the fat tire.
The old fat tire. So Sean says no, it's a dozer. It's about the size of a D6 or D7. I assume he's referring to that dresser.
Oh yeah, okay, okay, so, yeah.
I'm curious if those are actually made in were made like Dresser, Wisconsin, which is just up the road from here.
I have no idea.
Because I know there's a few mines over there that have a lot of equipment. I wonder if they were made over there. But Awesome Earth Movers, that guy's channels half the people in our training to run excavators and try enough funny how you don't have to know the language to know what's going on.
Absolutely. So. And that's, I've said this before about you guys, the subscribers. Generally speaking, if you're subscribing to channels like mine and other channels that are surrounding, dirt work, it's because you're already proactively going out and seeking the knowledge.
Yep.
And there are some great resources out there. I mean, Awesome Earth Movers. Those, you want to talk about production?
Is he from Europe?
I think so. I want to say either that or South America. Yeah. I can't remember. He might actually be South America. But look at how they set up. When you watch those videos, here's my challenge to you. If you haven't already, look at how they set up the hoe in relation to the truck.
Yep.
Watch the hoe as it cycles between those trucks. How he's cleaning up. As one truck leaves, he's cleaning up the area that the truck backs into with one or two passes, and he uses that material to fill the one on the other side. Yep. Once this side's cleaned up, he stops swinging to this side because it takes too long. He now moves to the side that the truck's sitting on and starts clearing out behind the truck to dig himself further back into the bank so the truck can back in further. Boom, that truck's loaded. This truck is now backed in. Now what he's going to do is do his one or two cleanup passes here, and now he's going to stab probably out in front of himself as he continues to back up. That whole process is all about production. Watch that operator. It is all calculated where he's digging material from. That's the sort of thing, and I've talked about it before on my channel. When you start operating, you start off as this green guy that you're just learning how to make the machine move the way you want it to. And then you move into this phase where you're just moving and you're not thinking about the machine anymore. I should say, you're not thinking about your hands anymore. You're thinking about what you want the machine to do, like you would your arm. When I reach out and grab a cup, I don't
Literally
think about, you become part of the machine.
That's exactly.
And that's kind of the phase you move into, and you do pretty well. But then you kind of move into this last phase, which you will spend your entire career in, which is where now you start watching other operators. And it's not just because, oh, that's entertaining to watch. It's, I want to see, like, that guy's a really good operator. Why is he a good operator?
Yeah.
What's he doing that's different than I would do? And how can I improve? Or likewise, there's nothing wrong with recognizing when someone does something that you go, you know, if that guy would change that one thing, he could probably get one more, maybe even 2 more loads an hour out of it.
So what's your opinion on the note of being efficient with loading trucks and stuff like that? And I was thinking about this the other day, and I think it's kind of a no-brainer. But if you've got, like, where those haul trucks aren't moving real fast on our site, we've got 2 trucks. Every once in a while, there's a little bit of downtime in between each one if you can load them quick enough. So what I was doing when I was loading is pulling from the far side of the pile and then just bailing everything over to right in front of me, even though you're moving the dirt twice. That way when the next truck gets there, it's all way closer and you can load it quicker.
It's funny you say that because I just recorded a Down and Dirty on this.
Did you?
This week, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And that's what I was thinking as well. It's like, you know, I'm kind of
100%.
moving the dirt twice, but right now, if we're trying to be as efficient as possible on the site, and time is our biggest enemy, then move the stuff closer and then load it into the truck.
So your option is, in the hoe, you could either sit there and you could save... Over the course of a day, you could save, call it $100 in fuel.
How much fuel would you actually save versus the production of just bailing everything over?
Yeah. Versus you bail it over, and now, so your truck is doing this, let's call it, it's a 5-minute cycle time for your truck to come around. If you sit there for that whole time, and you don't prep your pile, now it takes you, call it, a minute to load that truck. Versus the whole time that truck was doing his cycle, like Carson just said, if he's sitting on the right or left-hand side, I'm sorry, this is my left. This is my left. So we're all oriented. So if he's sitting off to my left, and I got this whole hunk of material over here to my right, I need to be taking that material and staging it right next to where the truck's going to be. That way when the truck comes by, I can load that truck in 35 to 40 seconds instead of an entire minute. Because now I'm only swinging from here to here to here, and again,
time in half.
Exactly. And again, when you stage your truck the right way to where he's actually out in front of you a little bit instead of dead even, you're talking a very short swing time. Yep. In fact, half the time I'm waiting on my boom up speed on this Doosan more than I'm actually waiting on my swing time.
Should have bought a case.
That's right. Should have bought a case. You learn.
You live and you learn. You live and you learn.
That's right. So you cut your cycle time. Call it 40 seconds to load the truck instead of a minute to load the truck. Your goal is to get that truck moving as quick as possible because that's when the material is actually going somewhere. It is 100% worth the time and worth the fuel to double move that material and stage it so you can get those trucks moving and back on the road as quick as possible.
What do you think one of those haul trucks goes out at?
Well, you told
me a couple $100 out.
Yeah, so I would say by the time you factor, so a newer truck, I would say you're probably, I would say you're easily over 175 at least, if not, over 2 to 250.
I bet it's got to be all at 200.
And so if you think about that, really, this is where you start. Again, we're now in this third phase of operating. You're not thinking about how to make the dirt go in your bucket anymore. What you're thinking about is, I have a truck sitting here that's costing us, call it around number, $200 an hour. And if it only takes me 30 seconds to load that truck instead of a minute to load that truck, or if it's, 30 seconds instead of 45 seconds.
$7 a minute.
So $7 a minute to have that truck sit
with
there.
The truck and the excavator.
Yep. So you're talking and now multiply, how many loads do you think we did over the course of a day? I bet if I had to guess, those trucks probably ran 50-ish loads across the site.
So what is it? So how would we divide that by the 20 seconds?
So that's per minute.
$7 per minute.
So divide by 60 and then multiply by however, that's per second.
So $2.30 every 20 seconds.
So there you go. So if we can
And
save,
you've got
if we can
every
save
truckload,
every truckload, we're saving $2.30 every truckload, and you're doing 50 loads.
$116 a day.
There you go. So 160. So is it worth the fuel? Okay, on this particular circumstance where we only had two trucks.
That's with one truck.
That's
per
oh,
truck.
that's per truck.
So you multiply it by 2 and you've got $230.
So these start to add up. Now, that's one tiny little example. So we're talking about all these little things that we can do.
So, but when you really get into the big, with 2 trucks for 1 week, that's $1,200 a week.
$1,200 a week that you're saving.
For saving that 20 seconds, you're saving $1,200 a week. Now, when you think about a job like this one down the road that I toured the other day, I was telling you about, that airport expansion, 200,000 cubic yards of material moved. Now, when you start doing the math on that, that 20 seconds per load, although it's a couple bucks per truck or whatever, it doesn't seem like much. But by the time that project's done, with the correct operator versus an inexperienced operator, somebody not being as efficient as possible, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars.
And that's why every time you see a 385 or like a Komatsu PC 1250 set up in the mass excavator configuration, that is not a rookie operator in that seat.
Not at all.
Even though it looks like a rookie deal where you're just bombing trucks all day. That is an experienced, highly efficient operator in that seat, because you're talking tens of thousands of dollars over the course of a week saved by making your swing times 5 seconds faster. I mean, it's huge the way that adds up.
A lot of money.
Let's see where we're at.
Favorite piece of machinery to run?
Ooh, so I actually talk about this.
It's got to be the excavator or the dozer.
Well, so I was going to say both.
Well, that's what, so I've always thought, like, ever since I was a kid, like, the excavator, like, the guy in the excavator calls the shots, like, that's the machine to have, like, it's most versatile. But ever since we got on this job, I've kind of been like, I like the dozer. Like, the dozer's fun. Like, the dozer's good stuff.
So there's kind of a 2-part answer. The first part is, my favorite thing in the world is bombing trucks in an excavator. Like, sitting there, getting those massively heaped buckets, bombing them into the trucks. Like, that's, I've said this before, it's zen operating for me. I like, it's like soothing and relaxing. I throw on the radio and it's awesome. That's fun. But when it comes to, like, mentally a challenge, really where you have the biggest impact on the job as far as, like, making it look nice and shaping, I really, really enjoy running a dozer, especially when you got GPS that you can do those beautiful cleanup passes.
Looks gorgeous.
And it's fast. That's fun.
I think the dozer is probably one of my favorite, just from, although with that said, the dozer, I've got about maybe 50 to 100 hours of seat time, maybe a little more than that on a dozer.
Dozer is by far the most underappreciated machine on the job for people who are new to the industry, because you think, oh, you just set the blade level and then you drive forward like it's an easy machine. It's
nothing to it but to do it.
That is the hardest skill level machine on the job. Like,
very tricky.
It is
we
very
were talking
tricky.
about that the other day, because every time you move that, if you move that blade down a little bit and you correct it and you leave a little dip up there, as soon as you hit that, you're going to hit that dip, and then you have to counteract that in your blade. Otherwise, you're going to do the same thing, and then all of a sudden you're going to.
And now you got the hoopties. Yep.
That's what I figured out the first time I ran. I was like, holy smokes. How can I get a Schifsky hat? You got to go to my channel. There's a link in the description to purchase merch.
There you go. So go to Schifsky's channel. He's got a link, which, by the way, my merch as well, like this. The shirt, there's a reason I'm wearing it. Both of us in our channels have links to merchandise purchases. Go grab some hats.
If you can, you should never have them back in. Just keep them going forward, straight forward, or work company that you backed up one of those trucks, you got fired. Yeah, and that's what we were talking about too. Depending on site conditions, if you every time you can loop that thing, because it's just way quicker to pull in and loop around and be in a spot than it is to pull up and then put it in reverse and then back up. Especially when you're dealing with trucks from the 80s, that it's hard to find reverse.
And so that's another aspect of this job where I've been training. All of our drivers have been like literally first day drivers, and so we've been coaching a lot on that, like how. And to an extent, I'll set it up for you, but at the same time, you have to be intelligent as an off-road driver. Don't get in there and flip your brain off thinking that, oh, I'm just going to become one of the herd.
Yeah.
If you can find a faster way, I told the truck drivers, I don't care how you get under my bucket, do it the fastest way possible.
Yeah.
I don't care what route you take to get here. Do it the fastest way possible, because if this hull isn't swinging and I'm not throwing dirt in the box, we're not making money.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's a good point to bring up too, because one of the things we were seeing, and we were just talking about, is they're probably going to put you in a haul truck or a roller or something like that first. If you can do it faster than everyone else, the guy in the excavator, the dozer, whoever's loading you or whatever's going on the site, they're going to notice that one guy that's doing something more efficient than everyone else, and that's how you're going to get into that excavator or the dozer and move up or get out of the haul truck if you want to.
So many people, especially getting into the industry, but not, honestly, like even old timers that are in the industry, they don't recognize being an off-road dump, that is a skill-based position. Being on a roller is a skill-based position. You can do it in a really shitty way, and you can take forever, and you can cost the job money. But you can also do it in a really efficient way, and you can save the job a lot of money, and you can cut way down on cycle times. And here's the other thing about trucks, because all of us in the industry know that trucks are herd animals. Yep. If you have one good driver, he will increase production for the entire set of haul trucks. That's a good point,
yeah.
One strike. It's same with scrapers too.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
That was in my interview that I did with John Fetchko.
Yep.
The owner of Fetchko. If you haven't seen that one, go back through my Down and Dirties. It was like
I just watched
2 weeks ago. We talk about that.
That's really
having one solid driver in either your haul truck group or your scraper group will absolutely increase production of the whole group. He raises them to the next level. And guess what? Everybody on that job that is in a position of authority is watching. And they notice that stuff, and that's how you get promoted.
It's one of those things that, for the new guys out there, if you're starting that position, like the people that have been doing it a while, they're going to notice the guy that's stepping up and doing more, doing it quicker, or like trying to think, how can I do it quicker? And making those decisions versus just falling in line with everybody else. Because when you're the guy in the excavator loading trucks or doing things like that, from a business owner perspective, that has to be the person thinking, we're going to load from here, we're going to bail this over. They have to have an active mind. It can't just be zoned out and waiting for someone else to tell them what to do.
Yep.
So,
by the way, Carson's driving on the comments, so I'm sorry if I'm missing all the hellos and everything.
Yeah, a lot of hellos there.
So I do appreciate all you guys tuning in. I'm sorry if I'm not catching them all, but Carson's driving.
What? I'm new to this.
That's right.
Haven't done too many lives. Just got here. What pipe are you laying? We're laying concrete pipe. We've got 21 inches, the biggest, I think.
21 inch,
18
15,
and 15.
15 and 12.
15 and 12.
21, 15, and 12.
Okay.
Yep.
21, 15, and 12. So.
Look, Carson's going to take over for a second because I'm going to go outside and pee. We're drinking beer and water. I'm sorry, guys.
All right. So drop your questions down below. Kind of made sense not to let them back up, and besides we have 40-ton trucks running. Yeah, if you've got a lot of trucks running, it definitely doesn't make sense to have guys backing up because I can see where that would create an issue. And like we were saying earlier, every site's going to be a little bit different depending on what you're doing. If you're on a tight site, obviously sometimes you might have them back up to get up next to the excavator. On the sites where we were at, we had enough room, so it was ideal for the machines to loop around. At one point in time, one of the times when I was out there, we were bailing topsoil out of there, loading it out. That was all pushed to the side, and then digging a retention pond next to it. Because of where the retention pond was, and it was an 8-foot cut straight down, the trucks couldn't come in and loop around, so we did have to have them kind of come up and then like back up a little bit, or do half of it and then still kind of back into place to be as efficient as possible. So each site's going to vary, but if you've got 40 trucks running on a site, haul trucks, I could see where, yeah, you don't want guys backing up because I could see where that'd be a traffic jam. Definitely. Is it cost effective to run the older trucks for cheaper even though they're slower, or is it better to spend the money on a new truck that can move faster? So that's a good question, Mason. We actually were running some of the numbers on the trucks. We figured, give or take, so the rental on a new truck we did was $7,000, $6,875 plus tax, plus a $2,000 delivery because it was pretty far away. It was a last minute thing when one of the other trucks broke down. So what? That's $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 into it, and then you got to put your fuel and operator into it. The older trucks we had out there were billing out between $100 to $150 an hour. The owner said if we keep them there longer and have more for them to do, it makes more sense for them to move them to that site. So then it'd be $100 an hour, or if we're just doing it for a couple of days, it's $150 an hour. With that said, it depends on the project you're on. We're in a situation where everybody on site and our crew is learning. My brother, who's also 50% owner and just on salary there, learning as well. So for us, it made sense to probably just have, and we don't have as many guys, so that $100, $150 an hour was with one of their operators in it. So it made more sense for us to just have them do it with the slower trucks, and we'd all kind of learn together, and we'd all be able to slowly figure out the process of everything. If we were to do it again, I think we would probably rent newer trucks. Problem is with haul trucks is they're expensive as hell. They're like 200, 300 grand to buy a new haul truck. So super expensive. But I think if you're doing it for the long haul, just I'm a strong believer in buying new equipment. One of the questions was really good. Is it cost effective to run the older trucks for cheaper, even though they're slower and you spend more money or whatever, and buy a new truck? And I was saying, I personally think it depends on where your business is at, but I'm a firm believer in buying not necessarily new, but like low hours or newer equipment that isn't abused. Because at the end of the day, the way we're set up, we're growing as fast as we can, and we're keeping everybody as busy as physically possible. So we're at a point where we have more work than we can actually perform with the guys we have right now. So we can't have stuff down. We can't have downtime. It costs us more than what it's worth. If we were at a point where we didn't have as much to do and we've got a couple days a week, or we can work on equipment, I would say buy used stuff. It's really all about where you're at. And part of that's going to be because usually when you're buying new stuff, you're going to be financing it. You might as well, if you're only going to use a truck or the piece of equipment a couple times a week or a couple times a month, buy a used one, because if it's down for a month or whatever and you only use it twice a month, well, you can work on it for the rest of it and then use it a couple of times. If you're going to be making that payment every single month on it, you better be using that vehicle or that truck or piece of equipment because it's costing you.
So. Absolutely. I would totally agree with that. If you're in any sort of a production situation where you have to move a lot of material and uptime is key, don't even fool around with going with the old busted stuff. Getting a little used stuff. So there's kind of this
gray area.
No, not so much gray area. It's almost like there's this, I don't even know how to say, like it's not even a curve, but basically when you buy a brand new machine, I don't care whose machine it is, if it's new from the factory, you're going to have some just quirky issues. The same with buying a new truck from the dealership. You're just going to have some break-in issues because I don't care who you are. Manufacturers don't get it 100% correct 100% of the time out of the factory. So there's like this break-in period where you're going to have some issues. And then you kind of get into the sweet spot where the machine's broken in, you've worked through all the weird quirkiness, and the machine's running and humming. And buying a used machine in that window where you're, I'll call it under 3,000 to 4,000 hours, like, you know.
And it depends on what it is.
That's true. That's true.
I wouldn't even look at a skid loader used with more than like 1,500 to 2,000 hours unless I know who had it.
Absolutely.
But that Doosan, didn't think twice about it, had 3,600 hours because they're just two totally different. Like the skid loader is you drive it and you beat the crap out of it and you run it into the ground and then you sell it.
And then you sell it,
So, I mean, that's
but hose have a much sweeter life.
It's a completely different machine.
It depends on the machine, but call it, that sweet spot. I would absolutely be okay buying used equipment where, similar to vehicles too. Like you take that initial depreciation right off the top when you drive it off the lot. And now you get into a machine that doesn't have the issues and everything, and it's going to hum along for you. But then you kind of have that taper off on the backside of the curve where the further you get up in hours, the more and more susceptible you are to more problems. You start getting into, undercarriage replacements. You start getting into having, replacing your tracks and your skids. And
it's not that that's like, it depends on where your company's at, because we've got some subs that work for us, Magners, and they buy a lot of used equipment and they buy it like past that window where it has had issues, but then they'll fix it and it'll work great for them, and that works really good because they're not necessarily as busy, where they've got a day or 2 days a week where they could work on some stuff and then put it to use the rest of it. And that's what I'm saying. If you've got the time and the know-how to do it, that can actually be a very beneficial way, because there's a lot of equipment they've bought and they could sell right now and make a few, 5-10 grand on it just by selling it. So that's a huge way to build up equity in your business too. It just depends on where your business is at and where you're going.
But the key is, the way to think about it is, if the machine breaking down is going to stop you making money, period. You don't need to buy an old tired machine. You need to buy a new machine, a newer machine. You need to finance it. That's part of starting and growing a business, is having a healthy amount of debt. That's just part of it. There's no getting around it. It's not anything to be afraid of if you're responsible with it. If that machine being down, if it stops you from making money, you can't afford to go buy an old beat up tired machine. So.
Okay. Especially with interest rates the way they are.
Yeah.
That's right, Tony did a double moving dirt. I recently moved up into an old Cat 345 loading side dumps all day. I noticed a huge difference when I prep the pile.
Absolutely. And 345. Is it a C series? If it's a C series, even the D series, I miss those machines. You could hear that turbo scream from across the job. They had balls because they didn't have the emission system. You fired them up in the morning.
That was the best thing about going to
cloud.
The best thing about going to this gravel pit down the road from us, when the old owners had it, there was an old D9, and every time you'd go in there, I'd always just want to sit down there as he'd push the rubble off the top of the hill. And the big black cloud of smoke.
Love
it just sounded great.
Love it.
Couldn't beat that.
Those 345s, like no joke. From across the site, you could hear that turbo screaming. They're so awesome.
The good old days.
Yes.
The good old days.
Pre-emissions.
I feel like pre-emission scrapers, too, have got to be pretty, like...
Yeah. Anything
obnoxious.
Pre-emissions. Yeah. The new haul trucks, terrible. They're terrible. They're totally neutered.
Yep.
So...
A bulldozer is much more satisfying at the end of the day. Excavator is just all day going in circles. I would kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think there's... Depending on what you're doing with the excavator, it's fun, but I think the bulldozer, as I start to use it more, is a lot.
And if you want a mental challenge, if you like mental challenges, go run loader on a pipe crew. No downtime. You're at any given time. Your phone has 5 phone calls of guys wanting something. You always have a list running of things you have to do. Go run loader on a pipe crew. Your day feels like it's an hour and a half long. Like you look down and you're just like, oh wow, it's already 6:30.
Who would have thought? Look at that. It's a long way down the road of a new company to afford a $500,000 side truck sitting around and doing nothing half the time. Yeah, and that's where I was going with that. If you're not using it 6, 7, 8 months out of the year,
rent it. In all honesty, you're still going to come out ahead renting more than you will buying. And this job that we're on is a prime example. This guy pulled these trucks. What did he say he bought these for? You remember?
2 of them for $40,000, I believe is what it was. $20,000
for the pair, $20,000 a pop. So he paid $20,000 a pop, and then he paid $13,000 each to get them moved.
Yep.
He's already. We did some kind of high level figuring. It cost us 4 days of production on this job.
Yep.
That's with that Komatsu 61PX, Doosan 225, D6K2. All waiting on these haul trucks, all with operators getting paid hourly.
So yeah, and let's stop for 1 minute on the actual cost of this. So that Doosan excavator can probably bill out at $200 an hour pretty easily. Same with that Komatsu dozer, $200 an hour, plus those haul trucks, each of them $200 an hour, plus that D6K with GPS and the whole GPS system. That's gonna be $250 to $300 an hour with the rover and everything. The whole system you got there. I mean, to pay for all that. You're talking $1,100 an hour.
And
it adds up quick.
4 days. 4 days of lost production.
So you're just doing an 8-hour day, which we weren't, times 4. I mean, that's $35,000 in 4 days.
$35,000 in lost production.
Yeah.
Because of 2 old, tired trucks that just... we're talking stupid stuff, too. U-joints. One of them had a tire go down because the tires were half rotted.
So, and here's a good way to break that down. So, say you lose 4 days out of each job, and you do 3 jobs like that a year with your old trucks. So, you do 3, that's $105,000 in lost production. It's not a lost profit, but it's lost production. So, if you would have had those 4 days back, you could have done another $105,000 worth of work. Healthy company would operate on a 20 to 30%, 10 to 30%, depending on what industry you're in. This is probably more like 10 to 20%, net profit margin. So let's just go on the high end at 20%. I mean, that's $21,000 directly out of your pocket because of those pieces of equipment. So how many years of running that before it just makes more sense to bite the bullet and pay for it? I mean, that probably on a new haul truck, with financing so low, would have paid for a new haul truck.
Hey, Brandon,
paid for the financing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not to mention, I mean, what did you say that was, $21,000?
Yeah, so, out of your pocket. That's out of pocket cost at the end of the year.
So a full season veteran operator, that's a third of his salary.
Yeah.
That you've gained back. So, Brandon, I just saw your comment. Thank you. Devin is awesome. Both of my kids actually are awesome. But yes, Devin is hardcore, loves the equipment. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. By the way, happy Father's Day to all you dads out there that are watching. I totally forgot that it was Father's Day today.
You just work around the old broken equipment, get somebody to fix it, and go do something else. Yeah.
So you could do that to an extent, but here's a prime example. So In certain circumstances, that works. And those are the circumstances where I say, yeah, get some old tired equipment. If you've got the ability to work around that old tired equipment, then by all means, go out and buy some beat up old haul trucks. But that's our primary dirt movers on this job.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have another option. When those 2 trucks are down,
we might as well just go home.
Pretty much. I mean, it's pretty close.
Like,
there was stuff we were kind of making up. We were trying to do tidy up stuff or shorter runs that we could push and but it was literally, there's nothing else we can do to move dirt on this job with those 2 trucks down.
Yep.
We don't have the ability to sit around and wait for someone to come monkey around.
And that's not to mention, like, some contracts, I know state contracts, and that, again, depends on where your company's going, but some of those, they'll either fine you after so many days of incomplete,
you got penalties on the end.
Or if you do it sooner, you'll get a bonus for doing it quicker. So,
absolutely. I mean, so again, like we said, in production situations, you can't afford to do that.
There's a reason all the big companies have nice, shiny, new equipment.
Absolutely.
Because it does financially make sense if you can keep it busy.
And one of the things I talked about with John Fetchco is, they've flipped over to a lease program on their equipment. That's something.
We were talking about that with the skid loader. Is that actually?
It's one of those things where you have to commit to it.
Yep.
You can't ride the fence and kind of do a half situation. Yep. But it's one of those things where you flip over and you go from a variable cost model to a fixed cost model. Because now I know exactly that excavator right there is $1,100 a month.
So what happens if something breaks on it?
So most of the time under a lease, because it's a new machine, it's all under warranty.
Oh, good point.
So there are obviously things will break that are not covered under warranty, but for the most part, the things that break are going to be under warranty. And that's the nice thing is right as you run out of warranty, boom, you're flipping into a new machine. Now, is it more expensive? Over time, if we were to compare lease side by side with flat out owning the machine, is it more expensive? Yes. But what you're paying for is having a machine that's always under warranty, and you're paying for the fact that you always have new equipment, which by definition is going to mean less downtime.
Yep.
So you get more production out of that equipment overall. So yes, is it going to cost you more to lease that equipment over time? If you only look at payment to payment, yes, it will cost you more. If you look at payments and production versus payments and production, I would say it's a wash. You may even come out ahead.
Yeah. And again, it all depends on where your business is at. If it doesn't make sense, if you don't have the work to make sense of making those payments and you can't make those payments, well, then you buy a used piece of equipment and you use it as you need until it makes sense that you're busy enough to keep that piece of equipment busy.
And
equipment doesn't make you money sitting around.
Right.
Just doesn't.
And I was going to say, too, like all of these conversations, this is not a one-size-fits-all conversation. That's the thing is, and I think we're both saying it, is really you have to look at where you're at in your business because, John Fetchco has been around for the last 20 years. He has longer than that even. He is super established. He knows his business inside and out, and he's been able to do the calculations and realize, yes, I come out ahead in this model. But for a smaller company like where Carson's at, it probably does not make sense to flip all of his big equipment over to a lease program.
No.
He's just not there yet.
Yep.
And so these are things that it's not a one-size-fits-all model, and you have to do, this is where you can't be lazy as a business owner. You're going to have to get in Excel and do some spreadsheets and figure out your costs.
It's crazy how much, you have to actually start doing that. I've taught myself Excel over the last couple of years, and I'm like, this is actually pretty helpful.
So one of the funny thing is, one of the things John was talking about, he goes, do you know how to calculate your overall running costs on a piece of equipment?
Actually, sorry to interrupt, but if you guys don't know, Case's website has the total cost of ownership
built right into it.
That is the most useful tool I have used in a long time.
Cat's got it too. It's buried a little bit, but Cat has one too for their equipment.
Well, and it works for any equipment.
You
just got to put your man hours, fuel costs, how many gallons per hour, what the equipment costs of financing, but that is a super useful tool that would help make that decision of when to sell, when to buy.
And this right here is gonna. I don't know if there's any people watching that dig basements with track loaders. I'm gonna set you ablaze right now. This undisputable. A track loader costs 3 times per hour to operate than what an excavator does. I don't care how fast you dig a basement. You're not digging a basement 3 times faster with a track loader.
No.
It will always be more.
Do people actually still do that?
Oh, all over in Georgia, over to Kentucky, over to Oklahoma, absolutely. There's a whole band in there. That's all they use. Nebraska, They all
Well,
use track loaders.
I know one of the biggest companies around here, probably $100 million revenue company, the biggest Fratellone companies. That's how Frankie Fratellone back in the day started, was digging basements with his old track loader, and now they're one of the biggest excavation companies. But they sure as hell don't dig basements with track loaders anymore. I'll promise you that.
It is undisputed. It is 3 times more expensive to run a track loader than it is an excavator.
Well, that's your undercarriage is always moving just to move. I mean, the wear on that is going to be insane.
That's not, and I was about to say, that's not even taking into account the fact of how much more efficient it is to take a bucket from over here, throw it over there, instead of catting out of the hole, going over there and dumping it in your pile, catting back down in the hole. Give me a break. I'm sorry. It's not even a debate anymore.
I was going to say, I didn't even think people still did that.
Oh, yeah.
I guess they do. Are you excited about the rain to keep the dust down?
Yes.
Very excited.
Yes,
the equipment
it's so bad.
is covered in dust. You can see where, like, on the back of the case skid steer, where the fan, like, actually blows the air the most, and the rest of it's just dusty all around.
Yes.
It's pretty bad. I've got an opportunity, Brian. Your kid is awesome.
Yeah.
I've got an opportunity to run 850K John Deere dozer with GPS. Just having issues leaving grade level. I keep leaving it 2/10 below or so. Any tips? Also, dozer suggestions to help me out. If you're leaving it 2/10 low and you're using GPS,
so you're probably not accounting for compaction, or like we're digging these retention ponds right now, and there's a lot of turning and twisting on the grade, which ultimately ruts up the grade, and then you carry that off, and so you'll leave it a 10th or 2 low. With GPS, that's a simple fix. If you are consistently 2/10 low, you got that little button right here on your thumb on your right hand, bump it up 2/10. So just carry it 2/10 over whatever grade you're trying to carry, and you're accounting for that. So it's a well-known thing with experienced operators. You know that, like, let's say we're putting down sand for the road. I know I'm going to get probably 2.5 tenths of compaction out of that sand. So I take whatever sand grade is supposed to run at, and I bump it up 2.5 tenths. I'm overfilling it with sand by 2.5 tenths, because I know when that smooth drum roller follows me, it's going to bump it down to grade. And that's really easy. You can drop back once your smooth drum has gone over it. I already talked to Ryan about that.
I think about that all the time in landscaping stuff, but I didn't even think about it.
Absolutely. So, and you can check that super easy. I told Ryan when he starts sanding the road, start at about 2/10 high, get you 50 feet or so rolled and compacted to density, then take the dozer back on it and set that blade down and see where you're at. And then you can adjust accordingly in your GPS. That's all you got to do. GPS makes that super easy to take into account.
That's a good idea. First truck I had was a 1959 Autocar 10-wheeler.
Yeah, the old Autocar. Dude, the first dump truck, I had a triaxle Autocar. I could outpull anything else in the fleet with that old monster. I can't even remember what cat motor it had in it. It was a beast. It was an awesome truck.
Why didn't you get Brian a track loader to operate for this site? Good question. Why didn't we? Should have.
I should have. I didn't even think about it.
I'd buy one of those shirts.
Oh
but
my
it needs to have a track loader.
I know. I need to get a track loader on it. This is what happens when you have a design done for you that you don't have a lot of control over. But yeah, I didn't even think about it. I should have hit Carson up for a track loader. Here's my one opportunity to fuck around in a track loader. And
does JCB make a track loader?
Oh,
we should get a JCB track loader. But some of the equipment that are support vehicles can be a little older, but the main machines that get the work done should have them as new as possible.
Yes,
yeah,
100%. 100%. And those haul trucks are not support vehicles.
And those are main. And to clarify, the sub we were using, that is like a support vehicle for his operation.
It is. He's got a totally different operation, and those trucks work for what he does.
Exactly. Yeah.
The problem was we rented them from him, and we're reaping the rewards of that.
Yes, get a JCB track loader.
It's a JCB track loader. Sweet Jesus.
Unbelievable.
It's the only mono-boom track loader in the industry. And it breaks better than 50 hours. Else.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds about right.
What time is it, by the way? All right, 15 minutes, guys. 15 minutes. We need to wrap this baby up.
Yep. Okay. What? No more questions.
No more questions. Are we out of questions? We're all the way caught up?
To be honest.
So I'm sorry if we missed any. Like I said, Carson's driving. He's a rookie to this live stream. I kind of have a reputation that I hit them all. Oh yeah.
Let me just double check.
How much do new operators affect your operation? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was
Okay.
gonna.
So I would say, obviously, they have a tremendous impact, but at the same time, this is where our industry needs to do a better job. I will say this: I have been here for 3 weeks. Yeah, about a little over 2.5 weeks with an entirely rookie crew. So, how much dozer experience did Colton have?
He ran a 450J John Deere, I think it was, last year. He probably had 20, 30 hours on one.
Okay. No dozer experience with the guy that's running GPS dozer.
No.
Excavator operator, when I wasn't in it, was Ryan, who started with these guys back in September.
And last December when you were here was like the first time
he ran a hoe. Like
excavator.
I have him in camera. If you go back and look at my first trip out here with Carson, the new guy in the hoe that I'm talking about, them investing in, that was Ryan. So he has no experience in the hoe. Then we had our two, literally their first day was on our job, haul truck drivers, and then it was me. That's it. I had 5 people in total, and I was the only one that had any experience on the entire job.
Yep.
Over the course of 2.5 weeks, we have moved probably pretty dang close to your 20,000 yards of soil.
Well, it's got to be more than that because we found a lot more topsoil.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's definitely more than 20,000
So it's definitely more than 20,000 yards. And we moved that with an entirely green crew.
Yeah.
And we could have absolutely done it more efficiently. But at the same time, with just some coaching, me taking time out of my seat, instead of bitching and screaming and yelling at everybody, I just took time to get out of my seat and show them what I needed them to do. I showed them the process. We talked every morning we would sit and powwow and we talk. Uh-oh.
You're live.
Are we there?
It says we're live.
Okay, I'm sorry guys. I don't know if we're still here or not. Okay, here we go.